Hey guys, welcome back to another thought process looping video. Today I am going to be going against a Nemesis, and I want to throw out a quick disclaimer before we jump in, and that is that in these videos I'm mainly going to be going against inexperienced killers, and the reason for that is twofold. The first being that if I was going against a really good killer, I wouldn't last all that long in chase, and so the video would be more about how I go down than how I loop them. And also because the target audience for these videos are mainly people that are trying to get better at looping, and so hopefully, you are going against less experienced killers as well that will be making a lot of the same mistakes that you see in these videos that you can capitalize on. So, yeah, uh, in this video also, I'm going to be going over some strategy as far as what decisions I make, why I do certain things. So it's not just about looping, it's kind of also just how I go about uh, playing the game itself. All right, and with that being said, let's jump right in. So, we are on the Shattered Square, the Decimated Borgo. And I start out here at main, but I want to kind of run around real quick and get my bearings. Um, I used to always go to main first, especially if it was in the center of the map, but lately I've started trying to get exterior gens done first, uh, just because main usually takes the killer longer to get up to. So I have more of a tendency to want to leave that till later. I want to point out how I set my camera here. I position it right here because that little crack in the floor gives you a view down to the bottom of the stairs. So if the killer were to come up to main, in theory, I would be able to see them through that and kind of get a head start. So it's just a little check spot for you to keep in mind. The reason I actually circled around and jumped on main here is because the killer was already chasing the Kate and got 2 hits on her with the tentacle, and I didn't see any gens close to main that I wanted to pressure because I like to leave the gens around the edge of the map for later on. So this is really the most central gen that I saw available. I want to touch on this really quick. This is something I see quite often, and I just want to comment on it. So the Kate just got downed. The Kate's getting picked, and this Adam here walks up the stairs. I didn't go back far enough. He walks up the stairs, and literally the only thing that walking does in this game is it doesn't leave scratch marks. And scratch marks don't last all that long. So if you're paying attention to your HUD, if you're seeing that the killer is busy, if they're chasing someone, walking is really just a waste of time. And I recommend just being as efficient with the time as possible. So there you see we popped that gen, and I'm kind of hanging out here because I'm thinking maybe the killer's going to come up, but then I see him over there. So I just look for another gen to get on. Ideally, you always want at least one person on a gen at any given time. So I see David started working on a gen, and it looks like the killer is tunneling. And so I always try to help out my teammates when I can if they're getting tunneled. This isn't a comp match. We still got 4 gens left. So Adam comes in as well, and I see that he's also taken a hit there. And now I saw that Nemesis committed to him. So I'm going to follow this Kate and get her reset. So she pressed sprint there. If you saw, I started healing her, and then it stopped me. And it's because she pressed the run button, which actually kicked me off. So as a survivor, if someone is trying to heal you, you know, I understand you're under pressure, you know, you want to be on high alert, whatever, but make sure you let go of your run button. And that goes for if you're on the ground or just being healed regularly. So we're getting some kindred value here, which definitely helps a lot in solo queue. It allows you to see what your teammates are doing. Notice that David and I are both on gens, which is good. We're on 2 different gens, so we're splitting pressure. Now, I see Kate got chased again, and she didn't get the unhook, which is completely understandable. She's already been hooked once, and it would have been a trade if she had done that. So, to touch on this really quick, as I'm running toward the hook, you can see the tentacles starting to form around him. All right. So once those tentacles fully form and they turn black, you have 4 seconds before the survivor goes to second hook. So as you're getting close to someone, that's an easy way to tell if they are about to go second, is as those tentacles start forming, you know they're getting close. As soon as they turn solid black, you have 4 seconds to unhook before they go second. And I see David's getting pretty close on his gen, and Kate is getting chased. So I decide to just heal up Adam here because I know that the killer has a tendency to tunnel. And so I just want to give my teammates as much of a chance as possible to last longer when they get chased. So obviously not much I could do to help the Kate there. She was across the map. And the slats really help. Like, I can tell that the killer's kind of over by me, and I see him through there. He does this interesting little, like, attempt at moonwalking, and I totally missed the door, thinking that it was on the other side there. I take that speed boost from the whip. So there, I faked that I was vaulting the window. He pulled out his whip. I was able to dodge it. Now I know I have enough distance, so I just tuck to one side there to get out of the way of his whip. And the Kate gets unhooked again, and he immediately leaves me to go back toward hook. But fortunately chases the David instead, and so I just jump right back on my gen. So here, I decide to try and see if I can get a flashbang save. But obviously he sees me, so I dodge his whip there. And he doesn't commit to me again, he just goes right back to the pick while I'm too far away to do anything. And one of my reasons for trying to go for that save was because I know the killer tunneled earlier, any amount of pressure I can deny them helps. So if I can keep someone from even getting on their first hook, it just makes it less likely that they get tunneled later. Now here, I decided to just stick to the gen instead of unhooking David, because once again, I know the killer has a tendency to come back to hook, and I didn't want him to know that anyone was over there, but there I fake out the tentacle again, because I knew I wouldn't have enough time to vault the window. And the shack on Borgo is a little tricky. Let me just back it up there a little. You see me coming around the backside here. The shack on Borgo is tricky because you don't have a window. You can barely see through those cracks, but I wouldn't really trust myself to get like valuable information from that. You know, especially if I don't see the red stain. So at this point, I'm just kind of going off of audio and hoping that they don't, you know, do some mega brain double back or cut through shack. So let's see if you can hear the audio through the wall. Yeah, I mean, you see the red stain come around the corner pretty quickly. So with this, you see me jump the window and then crouch instead of run sideways. Based on how far he was behind me, I knew I had enough distance to make the window before he pulled out his whip, so I didn't feel the need to try to mind game it. Right there is when he's starting to pull out his whip, and so I vault the window and then crouch because I know that he can't hit me through the window with his whip. The way the Nemesis tentacle works, it's kind of like a wall coming straight out from him. Even though the animation of the whip starts up and comes down toward the ground, the force of it is kind of just straight out from his body. So if you have a blocker or a wall that's high enough, you can crouch behind it and the whip isn't going to be able to hit you over it. So that pretty much applies to every window. If you get the vault before he's completely charged his tentacle, you can literally just crouch on the other side and you're safe. So that's what I did there. And just keeping an eye on the red stain. I see the red stain through the window, indicating that he's vaulting it. And I didn't want to abuse shack for too long because I didn't want to get stuck there with a blocked window. You see him moonwalking backwards there. And there we kind of mind-gamed each other. I didn't even realize that that wall didn't continue around, so I took the long way. And I saw that he left me, so I'm just going to immediately go back and continue trying to pressure my gen. And he injured the Kate again, but for whatever reason didn't commit. It's hard to really tell what his thought process there was, but she's already getting healed up. And I almost wanted to commit to this, but at the same time didn't really want to trade for that gen. Trade meaning I finish the gen, but I get downed because of it, so I'm basically trading a hook state in order to complete the gen. And I didn't realize that one of my teammates was on the gen there in shack. So he's now on Adam, so I'm right back on the gen again. And of course the killer realizes it, but this time he takes the long way around, so I just decide to commit. And there he ends up hitting me, but trying to dodge the Nemesis whip is basically just messing with his FOV. Like, he can spin pretty quickly and hit you, especially if they're on PC, keyboard and mouse. You know, you can move the camera. But I got some good distance on him. Inadvertently brought him back to the gen that was being worked on, which was... I should have known better, honestly. I was literally just going to Shack because it's such a strong loop. So here, knowing that he's going to try to, or assuming, I should say, that he's going to try to use his whip, I'm not even planning on dropping the pallet here. I hear his tentacle come up, and I'm just trying to get to the other side of that wall. There you hear his tentacle, and I dodged it. But then here, because I had dodged it before, I assume that he's going to expect me to just run through, and he didn't pull up his tentacle. So I just doubled back and got the stun. And then as I'm leaving this pallet here, my goal is to just get him as far away from Shack as possible, because you can see Adam is working on it. It's almost at 75%. I haven't been hooked yet. So even if I were to go down right now, they would pop that gen, and then I would be on first hook. I'm running adrenaline, so if someone came and unhooked me, which this team has been pretty good about unhooking, so I would hope that they would. Once I got unhooked, I would be full health. So even though I don't necessarily know what's around me, my goal is basically just to get distance from the gen that I know is being worked on. So I leave that loop and actually find this other tile, but then the killer DCs. So that's the end of that. But this is another really strong tile against Nemesis, because you have the higher walls. There's no way that he hit you over those walls. Possibly through one of those like bigger gaps there, but you know, again, if he pulls up his whip, you just have to crouch, and so that would be another place where I would have felt pretty confident wasting more of his time. But yeah, then he decides that he's had enough and DCs. Alright guys, and that'll wrap it up for that video. Thanks for watching. Now go be a menace.